In 2024, a new zombie horror thriller sweeps in. During World War II, Japan created a terrifying virus that could turn people into highly aggressive zombies with self-awareness. Even attacking the zombies' heads won't kill them. In 1941, the Japanese army landed in Chumphon, Thailand. Launching an invasion, the Thai Youth Army fought bravely, determined to resist to the last man. But despite their courage, they were continually beaten back by the well-equipped and overwhelming Japanese forces. To preserve their strength for the invasion of stronger Eastern countries, the Japanese army placed a wooden crate on the beach. It turned out that the Japanese had developed a super virus to turn soldiers into zombies for the war effort. As Mock and his comrades fled, they saw a shadow flash by. The next moment, one of their teammates was slammed into a tree, twitching uncontrollably. In panic, they all tried to escape, but none could outrun the zombies' relentless pursuit. When Mock came to his senses, he was the only one left in the entire squad. Just as he trembled in fear, the ground beneath him suddenly became soft. Mock realized he had stepped into a swamp. He struggled, but it was useless. Soon, he was completely submerged. Just then, a hand reached out and pulled him from the swamp. When Thailand's high command witnessed the terrifying power of the virus, they reluctantly ordered a ceasefire and prepared to surrender. However, the Japanese army was unaware that things were spiraling out of control. A group of Japanese soldiers went into the woods to clean up the battlefield, finding the area littered with bodies in a horrific sight. Suddenly, the bamboo tubes hanging from ropes began to shake wildly. A massive wave of zombies charged at them. Bullets had no effect, and the soldiers were forced to attach bayonets for close combat. But strangely, when they charged forward, the zombies had vanished. The captain, feeling a sense of unease, ordered his men to search for the zombies. He decided to rest while waiting. Soon, one of his subordinates reported back. When there was no response from the captain, they discovered that his head had been bitten off by the zombies. The remaining soldiers were frozen in terror. Just then, the zombies attacked again, their screams echoing through the forest. Not long after, Mac, a patrolling soldier, discovered a large number of severed limbs and bloodstains in the forest. Following the trail, he found a comrade trapped in a pit. He tied a rope to a tree and descended into the pit to help. Suddenly, the zombies lunged at Mac. He quickly grabbed a wooden stick and fought for his life, finally stabbing it through the zombie's head. Only then did he panic and scramble up the rope. However, suddenly, a zombie grabbed his ankle, trying to drag him back down. Just then, sparks flew from the wooden stick, setting the zombie on fire. Mac narrowly escaped. Not long after, Mock, who had been pulled from the swamp, woke up. He found that everything he looked at became very slow. Zombies surrounded him, but they didn't attack. It turned out that the Japanese had developed two versions of the virus. The second version had been refined to give zombies self-awareness, but the researchers had mistakenly released the first-generation zombies onto the battlefield, which led to the situation spiraling out of control. To this end, the commander severed the researcher's head with a single stroke and then called in Mac and several Thai soldiers to assist the Japanese troops in capturing the first-generation zombies alive for further study. Soon after, a swarm of zombies attacked a nearby village. Mock, unwilling to become a flesh-eating monster, picked up a handgun to end his life. But before he could pull the trigger, a strange liquid began oozing from his body. And then, to his horror, he spontaneously combusted. A zombie suddenly charged at Mock, pushing him into a mud pit and covering his body with the mud, saving him in the process. Later that night, Mock woke up to find himself in a cave. The zombie that had saved him during the day returned with the prey it had hunted. Other zombies, seeing the food, could hardly contain themselves. However, at a single roar from the one that had brought Mock here, all the zombies knelt, submitting to him. This zombie was the first-generation zombie the Japanese army had been desperately searching for. He was a Japanese soldier who refused to invade other countries, but he was forcibly injected with the virus and turned into a zombie. He had longed to see his wife one last time, but as his memories of her faded away, he lost all will to live and chose to fade into nothing. Soon after, a team tasked with eliminating the zombies discovered their trail. Captain Nakamura ordered the others to hide, while he sliced open his arm, planning to use the scent of blood to lure out the zombies. A zombie soon charged toward Nakamura after smelling the blood. After capturing the zombie and bringing it back to base, they tried various methods to find a way to kill it, but whether using acid or bullets, nothing could harm the zombie. In a twisted experiment to test whether zombies retained any human qualities, the Japanese brought in the zombie's father. Upon seeing his father, the zombie's emotions became uncontrollable. At that moment, the Japanese forces killed the father right in front of the zombie. Furious, the zombie broke free from its cage, but instead of attacking the soldiers, it crouched down and began feasting on its father's corpse. Seeing their uncontrollable behavior, Nakamura decided to eliminate all of them as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the young zombies who still retained some intelligence gathered together. They planned to return to the village to find their families. However, as soon as they entered the village and smelled the living, all rationality was immediately consumed by their hunger. They attacked the nearest living people, devouring them until their hunger was temporarily satisfied. One zombie tracked down his wife and daughter. When the daughter heard her father's familiar voice, she cried and rushed toward him. Just as the zombie was gently stroking his daughter's head, the destroyer squad arrived and fired a harpoon at him. The death of his wife and daughter drove the zombie into a complete frenzy. At that moment, other zombies arrived, and a chaotic battle broke out between them and the Japanese soldiers. Mech's uncle, enraged by the Japanese soldiers' continued slaughter of his fellow countrymen, joined the fight, but he was quickly shot and fatally wounded. Before he died, he saw his nephew Mach, who had already turned into a zombie. Mach, clutching his uncle's lifeless body, wept bitterly. Mech arrived at the scene and was horrified by the sight of numerous zombies feasting on the bodies of the Japanese soldiers. At that moment, Mach, crouching on the ground, caught Mech's attention. When the two brothers met again, the younger one had already turned into a zombie. To stop Mach from devouring his uncle's corpse, Mech had no choice but to shoot him. Mach quickly turned and fled. Mech continued firing, forcing Mach toward the edge of a cliff. Despite the bond of brotherhood, Mech, in tears, shot Mach off the cliff. However, just as he let out a loud cry, the next day, when Mech woke up, his body had begun to contort into strange shapes. He had been turned into a zombie as well. As the number of zombies increased, the Japanese feared that the truth would be exposed to the world. They decided to gather the families of the zombies and incinerate them along with the zombies to cover up the disaster. On the other side, Mach, who fell off the cliff, didn't die, but when he returned to the cave, he found the zombies had begun cannibalizing each other out of hunger. Desperately, he tried to stop them, but his efforts were futile. In that moment of chaos, Mech arrived. To his surprise, with a roar, all the zombies immediately submitted. Now their common enemy was the Japanese army. Upon learning that the Japanese soldiers had targeted even their families, the zombies rallied behind Mech, preparing to seek revenge. Meanwhile, the Japanese soldiers had herded the zombies' families into a jungle clearing, preparing for their execution. Unbeknownst to them, the zombies had followed their family's scent and arrived just in time. Seeing their families slaughtered, the zombies immediately rushed out and began crying, clutching their loved ones' corpses. In that moment, Mech came up with an idea. He could turn their mothers into zombies as well. But suddenly, four iron gates rose around them. It was a trap. The Japanese had lured the zombies here to eliminate them all at once. During the locking process, one soldier was bitten by a zombie and quickly turned into one himself. The iron gates couldn't withstand the fury of the zombies and soon collapsed. The zombies surged forward, tearing into the Japanese soldiers. Realizing the situation was out of control, Captain Nakamura threw 2 grenades, using the smoke to cover their retreat. Mech, however, rallied the zombies and planned a counterattack, intending to turn all the Japanese soldiers into zombies like himself. Not everyone agreed with this plan. Some argued that doing so would only create more monsters. In response, Mech cut down the dissenting zombie in a brutal strike, slicing him in two. Mach, too, opposed Mech's plan. He wished to let himself fade away, turning to ash, but he couldn't allow Mech to continue down this path of destruction. Mach was determined to stop his brother. Mech then sent 3 zombies to act as bait to lure the Japanese soldiers into the cave. Once the soldiers were inside, zombies ambushed them from all sides. Despite fighting desperately, the Japanese were no match for the horde. However, the Japanese had prepared flamethrowers. Having discovered the zombies' fear of fire, the flames roared through the cave, creating a path for the surviving soldiers to escape. Yet, the cave's complex tunnels left them lost. Unable to find an exit, the zombies, who knew the cave like the backs of their hands, regrouped and launched another attack. Trapped in the narrow tunnels, the Japanese soldiers had nowhere to run. They could only allow the zombies to devour their blood. In the end, only Nakamura managed to survive. Lying in the mud, Nakamura had hoped to quietly slip away, but unexpectedly, he was discovered by the horde of zombies. Before long, the infected Japanese soldiers began mutating, as Mech prepared to lead his zombie army for the final extermination of their enemies. Mach appeared at the cave's entrance with a flamethrower. Without hesitation, Mach turned the weapon on his own kind. Mech understood what his brother intended to do and gave Mach a military salute. Then, flames burst out, instantly consuming everything. Mech made no attempt to escape. Instead, he charged toward the Japanese soldiers, and the other zombies followed his lead, throwing themselves into the blaze. In the end, Mach also threw himself into the flames, choosing to find release in the fire.